While financial giants are issuing press releases about replacing lower value human capital with artificial intelligence, a French multinational you've probably never thought about just quietly executed a radical counter-offensive. Schneider Electric, a 160,000 employee energy technology company, decided to use AI not to erase jobs, but to erase the mind-numbing, repetitive garbage work that makes people hate their jobs. And the results are a direct challenge to every CEO who thinks the only path to productivity is a smaller headcount. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how Schneider pulled this off, why a Stanford economist says most companies are completely misunderstanding AI's potential, and what this means for your paycheck, your sanity, and your career over the next 5 years. The layoff numbers over the past few weeks alone have been staggering. Tens of thousands of jobs erased, and the executives aren't even pretending it's about anything else. One global bank boss described it as replacing lower value human capital with technology, which is the kind of phrase only someone who has never been on the receiving end of a layoff could say with a straight face. But at the very same moment, Erik Brynjolfsson, who directs the Digital Economy Lab at Stanford, went public with a statement that should be printed and stapled to every boardroom wall. He said that a lot of people are under the mistaken idea that the only way you get productivity from AI is by removing labor costs. That narrow understanding, he argues, is not just morally questionable, it's economically stupid. The bigger gains, the longer-term competitive advantages come from using AI to make workers radically more productive instead of replacing them. Schneider Electric heard that and actually acted on it. The company didn't start by asking which departments could shrink. They created a Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer role filled by Philippe Rambach, and his first mandate wasn't to find human redundancy. It was to find human frustration. Rambach described the process as identifying where our people are either losing time, doing repetitive tasks, doing tedious tasks, doing things which fundamentally are not the right ones to do. That is a surgical mission statement. He's talking about the work that gets in the way of actual work. The data entry, the endless system switching, the searching for information scattered across 12 different platforms, the inspection routines that make a skilled technician stare at a conveyor belt for hours, waiting for a microscopic defect. Schneider decided that those tasks were the problem, not the people suffering through them. Take what happened inside their call centers as a concrete example. In a traditional cost-cutting playbook, you dump a chatbot in front of customers, slash the human agent count, and call it a day. Schneider did something completely different. They deployed AI as an invisible assistant to the human agents, not a replacement for them. The system listens in real time, pulls up relevant product schematics, suggests regulatory compliance language, and handles the routine password reset type queries instantly in the background. The human agent gets a supercharged cockpit where the boring, repetitive 30-second tasks are automated, and what's left are the complex, emotional, high-stakes conversations where a French factory manager is panicking about a downed line and needs not just an answer, but a trusted voice. That shift turned call center work from a burnout machine into something closer to a diagnostic consultancy role. Employee churn dropped because nobody goes home exhausted from clicking the same button 500 times. They go home feeling like they solved real problems. That's augmentation, not replacement, and it directly contradicts the prevailing narrative that AI in customer service must mean fewer humans. Then there's the manufacturing floor, and this is where the physical world meets the digital brain in a way that makes the layoff narrative look even more short-sighted. Schneider produces millions of silver tips used in electrical contactors. If you've been in an elevator, ridden a motor, or flipped a heavy industrial switch, you've trusted one of these tiny components. A contactor tip has to be flawless because a microscopic crack can mean arcing, heat, failure. For years, human inspectors would spend their shifts staring at these parts, doing visual checks that are mentally exhausting and prone to drift after hour 6. Schneider installed AI-powered computer vision systems that don't get tired, don't get distracted, and can spot a sub-millimeter fissure at full production speed. In a layoff-obsessed company, that's the moment you hand the inspector a cardboard box and a severance check. Schneider instead handed them a new set of responsibilities. Those same workers now monitor the AI's output, interpret its anomaly data, fine-tune the production parameters, and get trained on predictive maintenance analytics. They went from repetitive manual inspection to process optimization. The factory's defect rate plunged, throughput went up, and the workers didn't just keep their jobs, they got better ones. The silver tip line became a proof of concept that a machine can take the soul-crushing repetition and leave the human judgment where it belongs. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a charming story about a French company with a conscience, but how does this actually affect me sitting here watching this on my phone between meetings? Here's exactly how. Dominant narrative around AI and labor right now is being written by the banks and tech giants who are using AI as a layoff accelerant. Every time a CEO announces headcount reductions and credits AI, it sends a signal to every manager in every industry that this is the modern, acceptable, forward-thinking move. It becomes a contagion. Your boss reads those headlines and starts mentally calculating your department's headcount versus a software subscription. The Schneider example matters because it provides a ready-made, battle-tested counter-narrative that you can point to. It says that a company with 160,000 employees, a massive global supply chain, and unionized workers in France did not see AI as a headcount lever. They saw it as a talent multiplier. Changes the conversation from AI will take my job to AI should be taking my repetitive tasks because I was hired for my brain, not my ability to copy and paste between screens. The career implication is immediate. If your company starts an AI initiative that feels purely like a prelude to downsizing, the Schneider model gives you the language to push back intelligently. You can ask, are we mapping tedious tasks first or just mapping headcount? Because according to Stanford's research, the companies that automate tasks rather than roles actually see higher overall productivity gains and maintain institutional knowledge that pure layoff strategies destroy. In 5 years, the workforce will be split between organizations that hollowed out their middle and are now scrambling to rehire consultants at triple the cost, and organizations that upskilled their people and now have a workforce that understands both the process and the AI that enhances it. You want to be in the second bucket, and you now have evidence that bucket exists. That brings me to my honest take on this, because I'm not just going to relay a feel-good story and send you on your way. I think what's happening right now in a lot of corner offices is a catastrophic failure of imagination, disguised as operational discipline. When I hear a bank chief talk about replacing lower value human capital, I don't see a genius playing chess. I see a manager who has no idea how to unlock value from the people he already pays. Erik Brynjolfsson is pointing at something deeply uncomfortable for the C-suite. If your entire AI strategy is firing people, you're admitting you never knew how to deploy their brains in the first place. The Schneider case proves that the more intelligent path, the higher ROI path, is to use AI to compress the tedious parts of a job into seconds so that the human being can spend more time on judgment, creativity, and exception handling. That's not socialism. That's not European softness. That's hard-nosed productivity science. A machine that checks silver tips 24/7 is a capital asset. A human who can interpret why a certain batch is drifting out of spec and then recalibrate the entire line is a force multiplier. You don't fire the force multiplier, you unleash them. There's a darker undercurrent here that we have to acknowledge. If the labor cost-cutting crowd wins the narrative war and AI becomes synonymous with layoffs, we're going to see a spiral. Mass displacement crushes consumer spending power. Who buys the products that the AI-powered factories are making if nobody has a paycheck? The Schneider approach isn't just kinder, it's economically sustainable in a way that a slash and burn strategy is not. But it requires long-term thinking in a quarterly earnings culture that punishes investment in human capital. My opinion is that the companies choosing augmentation over elimination are going to build such a loyalty and expertise advantage that in 10 years, the firms that gutted their workforce will look like hollow shells that forgot how to make anything except shareholder presentations. The real AI race isn't about who can cut the most heads. It's about who can upgrade the most brains. And right now, Schneider Electric just lapped half of Silicon Valley without most people even noticing. The next time your employer rolls out some AI tool, you need to watch very carefully whether it's being positioned as a replacement or a co-pilot. That single framing tells you everything you need to know about how your leadership values you and how safe your role actually is. If you want to stay ahead of these shifts and understand the strategies that protect your career instead of just reacting to layoff headlines, hit subscribe right now. I'm breaking down the moves that matter every single week.